of God, and if this is what you say, Moses, then we are ready. So, so that is when this punishment was pronounced upon them, that for 40 years they'll not be able to enter that land until this whole generation dies, which has been responsible for not entering, which has actually refused to enter. So once they passed away, then they were able to enter in the leadership of Joshua. Whether the town was Jericho or some other town, that's another discussion that we will be doing later on,
I see.
because
Now,
that is mentioned.
yeah, so thank you. But you also mentioned that they changed the word hitta to something else.
Right.
And so is that in Bible? Because I didn't hear it. Maybe you did mention it, so my apologies. So I don't know
So no,
what's.
we don't find it to the best of my remembrance in the Bible, but the Quran says that when they were asked to enter that city, they were asked to say mas'alatuna hitta, that God brush away our sins. So
Mhm.
instead of entering with humility, bowing down their heads and asking for forgiveness, the Quran says فَبَدَّلَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا غَيْرَ الَّذِي قِيلَ لَهُم. So they changed this word to exactly its opposite. What they were told, they did not say that word, and they substituted that word for another word. But what word that was, we can only imagine that it must have been something that is opposite to to this expression of humility, that God forgive us, something to that effect. It would have been something that expresses their own arrogance, or maybe something that, in the sense that, well, this is our right. If we are entering here, we are mighty and we are strong. It would have been surely an expression of their own haughtiness and rebelliousness, which is a hallmark of these Israelites at that time.
Thank you very much, Jazakumullah khair.
Shabnam, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. सर ये आपने बताया कि दिस इज मैकन सूरा, तो सर इसमें
Yes.
ये जो स्टोरीज और नरेशंस हैं ये ज्यादा बनी इसराइल की हम पढ़ रहे हैं, सर व्हाट वाज द सिग्निफिकेंस कि वो पेगन्स ऑफ मैका ही उस वक्त एड्रेसेस थे, तो वर दे मतलब इसमें क्या सिग्निफिकेंस थी उनके लिए कि वर दे समवॉट अवेयर ऑफ दीज थिंग्स? का दूसरा क्वेश्चन है, साथ ही कर लूं या बाद में आप ये बता दें?
I think one by one. You see,
जी सर.
this is a whole sequence of the accounts of various prophets of God that has been mentioned. We know Noah was mentioned, Lot was mentioned, the Ad, the Samud, they were mentioned. And then finally we have the tale of Moses, the account of Moses in more detail. Yes, these people knew them very well, because as we know from the Quran, that the most similarity which Prophet Muhammad had, if he had with any prophet, it was with Moses. Inna arsalna ilaykum rasula kama arsalna ila fir'auna rasula. The Quran says in Surah Muzammil that, "O Quraysh, we have sent to you this messenger just as we sent Moses as a messenger to Pharaoh." So this shows how they stood in parallel. So their story, their account was very well known to them. And that is why the account of Israelites or Moses is repeated in the Quran. And I can tell you that of all the prophets, he is the most mentioned in the Quran, and the story of the Bani Israel is the most recounted in the Quran.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. और सर सेकंड क्वेश्चन सर, हाउ डू वी नो कि सर ये आप गालिबन बाइबल में होगा कि दे वर गिवन फ्राइडे फॉर वर्शिपिंग, एंड देन व्हाई सर, व्हाई डिड दे चेंज इट टू सैटरडे जस्ट आउट ऑफ मिसचीफ and
I
God
mean,
allowed
just
them?
out of not following their own insolence. You see, it was their own insolence that they wanted to change it to their own convenience. We don't know the exact reason that why. I mean, the reason, of course, was to defy God, but why did they change it to Saturday and not to Thursday? That's something, at the moment, I don't recall having been mentioned there in Talmud or maybe in the other sources, but yes, this was a change that they made.
And we know this from Bible only,
Oh,
not
yes, we
from
know
Quran.
that very clearly.
We know very
We know
clearly.
that very clearly that this is something that they did. But we know from the Quran that the holy day has always been a Friday. And that
Right,
is,
sir.
yes.
And sir, God allowed them to the prophet of that time?
You see, they were allowed to do so in insolence. It's not that they were always listening to the Prophet.
Right,
So
sir.
the prophets of their own times must have admonished them, but they continue with their insolence.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Ijaz Hussain, sir, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. My question is, as you said that the people, Israelis living in those particular, city or town, they were, transitioned into monkeys or apes. So that means they were no longer human beings. So just a sort of a silly question. So is it the case that somehow Darwin, concluded that monkeys, they are somehow closer to human beings? So is it? I mean, is the story linked with Darwin concluded, or it has
No,
no
that
connection
has
with it?
actually that is not nothing to do with that, because you see, that's like telling them that their inner and outer portion started to resemble the monkey. So that doesn't mean that their DNA maybe their structure changed or their brain changed. It was the resemblance that is being talked about. The resemblance, your inner resemblance and your outer resemblance. When you say inner resemblance, it means your nature. So it's not your structure that was changed. They had the same structure, but their faces started to resemble monkeys, and their inner nature started to resemble monkeys. As far as their own structure is concerned, that is not being discussed here. For the Darwinian theory of evolution, that is an entirely different theory. We know that it starts off with the fact that mankind has a common ancestor, and through his study, he thought that this evolvement, as he would say, has taken place through the descent of species from one into another. So his thesis was based on empirical evidence, as we know, in the 16th century or in the 17th, in fact, in the 18th century, I would say, when he traveled through this famous ship called Beagle. He stayed on the sea for about 4 or 5 years, and he took samples from various islands, and then he made this conclusion. So that route that he took was an entirely different one, and this is something that is an entirely different issue.
So what you mean is that the people referred in the Quran, they remain human beings in terms of their
You see,
physiology.
what is being said here is that their appearance started to resemble apes, and their inner nature also changed and got perverted. And just as apes and monkeys have a certain perverted nature, or the way they would go along in life, in their eating habits and their other instincts, so they started to resemble them in their instincts and in their appearance. So, of course, when they would have died or they would have been consigned to the grave, they were still in that human form. That human form did not change, but their faces and their nature changed.
Right. Thank you.
So, Dr. Saleem, just a kind of ask on this question. So, the faces change. Like usually, when we say that a person who's good in nature, they have a softer face, they appear different, they move different. Is it the same context? It's not literal then. Literally, they didn't
No,
really
it is
literally
literal.
become monkeys.
So it is literal. You see, their appearance changed into apes. They started to look like apes, the way monkeys look, or the way apes look. So it was their physical appearance changed. It is not that it is like a metaphor or something that compares them to monkeys. This is not something that we can deduce from the words. The words, they say that kunu qiratan khasin, you become despicable monkeys. So that's like something actual physical change. It's not something that's symbolic.
Okay. I have a chat question. Dr. Saleem mentioned shura in reference to fish raising their heads. Is that what the word means?
Shura. Shura. It's not
That's
shura. Shura.
Okay. So that's what the word means, they're asking?
Yes, shura. So shura is the plural of sharia, and sharia means a spear. If you look at a spear, it has this pointed heart type, shape in the end, and then there's a rod. So the sharia is that spear type shape
Like a
that you can
spade.
see.
Is it like a spade?
It's like a spear, more of a spear.
Okay. Noshad Shafkat Saab, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Sir, just on the question before this, Darwin's theory, I think, relates to the origins of man. And the apes that we are talking about is in the time of Moses, much after that. So I don't think Darwin would
that does
possibly
not
be
relate.
referring.
Yes, absolutely right. That's another very important point. So that theory, it relates to pre-human samples, you can say,
That's right.
when human beings had not even been born. So this is much later.
Pre-Adam. In fact, pre-Adam.
It's pre-Adam. It's before the arrival of our forefather, who was Adam. So yes,
Right,
thank you very much thank you for reminding us.
Thank you.
Dr. Saleem, I do not see any raised hands. We can move to the idiomatic translation and then maybe come back to it in the end.
Okay. So starting off with the literal and idiomatic translation, it says, Wa is qila lahum uskunu hazihi al-qarya. Wa and is when. Qila lahum, they were said. Uskunu. Uskunu means stay. Hazihi, in this, qarya, in this city. So when it was said to them that you stay in this city, wa, and kulu, eat, minha, from it, haisu, wherever, shi'tum, you want, wa, and kulu, you should say, hittatun, brush our sins, wa, and udkhulu, enter, al-bab, the gate, sujjada, while bowing your heads, naghfir lakum, we will forgive you, khati'atikum, your sins, we will forgive you your sins, sa, very soon, nazid, we will increase, al-muhsineen, for those who are thorough. So very soon we will give more reward to the thorough. So nazid would be, we will increase it for the muhsineen, we will bless them further. Fa, but baddala, changed, allazina, those who, zalamu minhum, were unjust among them, qawlan, the word, this word that they were said, the word of course is hitta, they change it, ghayr allazi, to what it was not, qila lahum, that was said to them. So literally it would mean that when they changed the word that was said to them into that which it was not, what happened? Fa arsalna, fa, therefore, arsalna, we sent upon, alayhim, them, ridzam means punishment, min, from, as-sama, the heavens. So we sent upon them punishment from the heavens, bema, because, kanu, they were, yazlimun, they were oppressive, because they were unjust. Was'alhum, ask them, was'al, ask hum, them, was'alhum, ask them, anil qarya, an, about, al qarya, the city, allati, that was, kanat, the city that, kanat is, or was, haziratal bahr, hazira, on the shore, al bahr, sea. So ask them about the city that was on the seashore, is, when, ya'duna would mean that they transgressed, fi sabt, in the matter of Sabbath, when they transgressed in the matter of Sabbath, is when, ta'tihim, came to them, hitanuhum, their fish, yawma sabtihim, on the day of Sabt, on the day of their Sabt, shur'an, with heads raised, wa, and, yawma, the day, la yaspitun, it was not Sabbath, and the day it was not Sabbath, la, not, ta'tihim, they would come to them. So on other days they would not come to them. So the other days are the ones that was not, they were not Sabbath. Except for the Sabbath, they would not come to them. La ta'tihim. Kazalika, in this way. Nabluhum, we tested them. Bima, because kanu, they were, yafsikun, they were disobedient, or they were insolent. So in this way we tested them because they were insolent. Wa, and, is, when, or recall, you can say, on, and recall. Qalat, said, ummatun, a group, minhum, among them, lima ta'izun, why do you advise, qawman, a people, Allahu muhlikuhum, whom God has decided to destroy, muhlikuhum, whom God has decided to destroy, aw, or mu'azzibuhum, or God has decided to punish, azaban shadida, in a severe way. Qalu, they replied, ma'aziratan, to present our excuse, ila rabbikum, to your Lord. So we are going to counsel these people in spite of the fact that God has decided to destroy them or to punish them, because we would like to do what we can best do. Of course, that is ma'azira, or present our excuse, ila rabbikum, to your Lord, wa, and la'allahum, so that they yattaqun, become secure. So we are continuously even advising people about whom God has decided to destroy them or to punish them, so that at least we are able to fulfill our duty. We will present an excuse before God that we have done our due. That is what is implied. Fa, therefore, lamma, when, nasu, they forgot, ma zukkiru bihi, what they had been reminded of, anjaina, we delivered, allazina, those who, yanhauna, who remained or abstained, anissu, an, from su, evil. So when they فَلَمَّا نَسُوا مَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ would mean when they forgot that through which they were reminded of. What was that? What happened? أَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ السُّوءِ. We protected those yanhauna who were stopping people anisu from evil. So we actually delivered those people who were stopping people from doing evil. Wa and akhazna, we took hold allazina of them zalamu, who were oppressive or who were unjust, bi'azabin, with a punishment, ba'is, that was extreme, bima, because kanu, they were yafsukun, disobedient. Because they had become disobedient, so we took hold of these people with a very, very severe punishment. Fa, therefore, lamma, when, atau, they became rebellious, an, from, ma nuhu anhu, from that which they were stopped from. So, in other words, when they when with rebelliousness, they started to do from what they were stopped from, ma nuhu anhu. Qulna, we said, lahum, to them, kunu, become, qiradatan, monkeys, khasi'een, which are extremely despicable. Wa, and, is, when, ta'azzana, informed, or when your Lord informed them, Rabbuka, your Lord, layab'asanna, he will definitely send, alayhim, upon them, ila, until, yawmil qiyamah, the day of judgment. He is definitely going to send upon them, who, man yasumunahum, man who, yasumunahum, who will inflict upon them, su al azab, the worst of punishments. Inna, indeed, Rabbaka, your Lord, lasari'ul, swift, al-iqab, in retribution. Indeed, your Lord is swift in retribution. Wa, and innahu, inna, indeed, who he. Indeed he, Laghafur, is forgiving, Rahim, merciful. Indeed, he is one who is forgiving and merciful. Wa, and qatta'nahum. Qatta'nahum would mean we dispersed fil ard, in the land, umaman, their various groups. So we dispersed them in the land in the form of various groups. Minhum, min, from, whom, them, among them, as-salihun. Among them were people who were pious. Wa, and minhum, others, duna zalik, who were not like them, who were different. Wa, and balawnahum, we tested them, bil hasanat, with good situations, was-sayyi'at, and with dangerous situations. So we tested them with good and bad circumstances, or with good and dangerous circumstances. لَعَلَّهُمْ, so that they, yarji'un, return. Of course, the implication is they return to God. Fa, therefore, khalafa, min ba'dihim, khalafa, left behind, min ba'dihim, after them, khalfun, such people, warisu, who became inheritors of the book, of course, or ya'khuzuna arada hazihi dunya, arada hazil adna. Ya'khuzuna would mean that who would take arada, the provisions, hazil adna, of this world, of this lowly world. Wa, and yaquluna, they would say, sayughfaru lana, in very soon we shall be forgiven. Wa, and in ya'tihim, if comes to them, or if came to them, aradun, a provision, mithluhu, like them, ya'khuzuhu, they will accept it. Alam, is it not, yukhaz, they took hold, alayhim, from them, misaqul kitab, a covenant of the book. So what it actually means is that was not a covenant taken from them about this very book. Alam yukhaz alayhim, was not taken from them, misaqul kitab, a covenant about the book. And what was that? Allah, that, la, not. Yaqulu, they will say, Allahi, upon God, illal haq, except that was the truth. So they will not say anything about God but the truth. Wa, and darasu, ma fihe. Darasu, they read thoroughly. Ma fihe, ma, what, fihe, what that was in it. So they read thoroughly what was in it. What darul akhirah, and wa, and darul akhirah, the place of the hereafter. Khairun is better. Lillazina, for those, yattaqun, who are pious. So The place of the hereafter is better for those who are pious. Afala, do you not taqilun, understand? Wa, and allazina, those who yumassikuna, get hold of, bil kitab, the book. So those who get hold of, or in fact what is meant here is who hold fast, who really stick, adhere to the book of God. Wa, and akamus salat, akamu, they are diligent, as salat, in the prayer. Inna, indeed we, la, not, nudhi'u, we waste, ajra, reward, al muslihin, of the reformers. So what is said here is that those who hold steadfast or hold strongly to the book of God and who are diligent in the prayer, we do not waste the reward of the muslihin, of the reformers. Wa, and is, remember, nataqna, when we lifted upon them, al jabal, the mountain, fawqahum, over them. Nataqna would mean that we made to hang or lifted. Al jabal, the mountain, fawqahum, fawqa means upon, whom, them. So when we lifted the mountain upon them, ka'annahu, as if it was, zulla means the canopy. Wa, and zannu, they thought, annahu, that it is, waqi'um bihim, it's going to fall on them. So when we lifted the mountain in the form of a canopy, and they thought that it is going to waqi'um bihim, fall upon them. What did we say? Khuzu, take hold. Ma atainakum, ma, that, atainakum, we have given you, biquwwatin, with full force. So hold what we have given you with full force. Wazkuru, and remember, ma, that, fihi, in it, and remember what is in it. La'allakum, so that you, tattaqoon, become pious. So khuzu ma atainakum would mean that take what is in it, biquwwa, with full force. Wazkuru ma fihi, and be reminded of what is in it. Remind yourselves and remember, in fact, what is in it, so that the result is tattaqoon, that you become pious and you become secure. So yes, this is the idiomatic and literal translation. And once again, to remind you, viewers, that this idiomatic and literal translation is done so that you can follow the text more closely than by simply reading its translation. The word-to-word translation is done so that you are brought closer to the meanings of the text, so that you are able to reflect. And I have always said that if you can write down these words of vocabulary in a book, or maybe on your phones or whatever you have at hand, and keep revising them, then very soon you'll realize that you will be able to understand a large chunk of the Quran even without knowing Arabic, because these words, they keep on repeating, and when you keep reciting them and reading them and revising them, they give you a general expression or a general idea of the meanings. And please do try to do this for whatever time we are doing here. And also, the best would be if you can revise later on, at least once or twice before we enter the next session. I can assure you that it's going to really help you in understanding the message, and it's going to really be a part of your memory as well. So yes, now we have more time for any more questions.
If anybody has any questions pertaining to the passage, please raise your hands. We have some valuable time left with Dr. Saleem here. It was a wonderful translation today. So if anybody has any questions, kindly raise your hands pertaining to the passage. If not, then we'll be moving to general questions. I do not see any raised hands, Dr. Saleem, as of now. If anybody has any general questions, you can ask those also. We have around about half an hour left. Still waiting on everyone.
So today we might be ending at 9:15 actually, because we have 15 minutes.
Okay, so we have 15 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, please kindly raise your hands. I don't see any hands.
Yeah, I think I can ask this question if nobody is asking regarding the intercession question that I already raised with you. So please, I mean, elaborate on a bit. I mean, intercession, ये वसीले का जो concept है, or many people, maybe not that many people from Sunnis and other Muslim sects, they believe in it.
So you see, the word intercession, which is used in the Quran on so many occasions, and this is something that you will be surprised to know that the word wasila, if you look at the Arabic, has been confused with the Urdu meaning of the word wasila. So wasila is not intersection. Actually, it means that you get hold of someone who's going to intercede on your behalf. That is what the general understanding is. So the Quranic verse is Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu ibtaghu ilayhil wasila. So ibtaghu ilayhil wasila, if it is translated the way people translate it, would mean that get hold of someone who is going to take you to God. Ibtaghu ilayhil wasila. That is how people translate it. But unfortunately for them, they have to note that the word wasila is not used as a means or someone who can act as an intercessor in Arabic. That's not the word wasila. That is the Urdu meaning of the word wasila. In Urdu, the word wasila is to get hold of some intermediary, someone who can become a means to do something. The word wasila in Arabic means nearness. So the verse actually means Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu taqullaha wabtaghu ilayhil wasila, or those who fear God, or those who believe fear God, wabtaghu ilayhil wasila, and procure His nearness. Try to become closer to God. La'allahum tattaqun, so that you are forgiven, so that you remain secure. So the word wasila in the Arabic language does not refer to any intermediary. That is the Urdu meaning. The word wasila in the Arabic language literally means nearness. So what the verse is telling us is that try to come closer to God. Try to be a God conscious person. And for this, of course, it does not mention how, because that is something which the Quran continues to mention all around by of course, becoming a good human being, by praying, by doing all the worship rituals in the right way. So that is what is mentioned by the word wasila.
Dr. Saleem, I have a question, chat question. Is there any relevance of Shab Barat?
Absolutely none. It's primarily a Shiite concept. The 15th of Shaban is the birth, as the Shiites say, of Imam Mahdi, and they celebrate this birth. For them, it's like a very huge day. It's something that really is, I would say, one of the premier religious gatherings for them, or religious festivities for them. And of course, there are a few very, very inauthentic narratives that are associated with this night of Shaban, and think that there's a narrative which says that on this day, if people remain awake and they ask for forgiveness, then God is going to forgive them in very large numbers. This is a very weak and inauthentic narrative, and it is on this basis that people think that the night of 15th of Shaban is a very blessed night. There is no such thing. It's not mentioned anywhere in the Quran. People think that in one of the surahs of the Quran, which says Inna anzalnahu fi laylati mubarakah, they think that Laylatul Mubarakah is the night of Shaban, whereas it is the Laylatul Qadr that has been mentioned there. The night of Shaban is not mentioned anywhere in the Quran, and as I said, the only place where it is mentioned is in a weak hadith. And other than that, we know that from Shiite sources that it is actually the birthday of Imam Mahdi, which they think is said to arrive near the end of times, and he's going to bring prosperity and the rule of Islam, restore the rule of Islam. That again is something that I have discussed a number of times, that all narratives that depict the arrival of Mahdi near the end of time are totally baseless. They don't have any authenticity. There is just one narrative that holds such degree of authenticity, but that is something which the Prophet predicted near the end of his own era, like when the Sahaba were finishing off, and they were just going off. The last generation of the Sahaba was there, and if you look at the context of the narrative, we'll find that he was actually predicting that near the end of his own era, there will be a very just Khalifa who will be rightly guided, Al-Mahdi. And that caliph, of course, if you look in history, was none other than Amir Muawiyah. So that is all that we can find from sources. Other sources which say that there is going to be a Mahdi near the end of time, and he is going to be a deliverer, he's going to be someone. None of the narratives. In fact, it is way before our own times, and Ibn Khaldun in his own Muqaddimah has said that there is not a single narrative that relates to Imam Mahdi that can be corroborated. So it is centuries ago that these narratives had already been discredited. But it seems that they have found mention in Sunni books by infiltrating from Shiite books, one. And two, as I said, regarding the night of Shaban, which is the 15th of Shaban, there is nothing that is found in Sunni books. Whatever we find is actually a Shiite reflection in the Sunni books regarding the birth date of Imam Mahdi.
But Dr. Saleem, Shab Barat is such a popular holiday in Pakistan, and it's a Sunni-based country mostly. So how do we explain
So you
that?
see, if you look at historical details, you'll find that Sunnis have been influenced by Shiites. For example, if you take 10th of Muharram, the way the Taziyah is taken out, all Sunnis, they regard it to be a very revered thing. If they are not even, if they don't participate, then that at least they deeply regard it to be a very, very devotional function. So Shiites have had a very strong influence on the Sunnis.
Okay. So the question about the return of Jesus and end of time, should I refer them to the question series by Dr.
Oh yes, because
Ghamidi? Because that has been
yes, because of the fact
explained.
that this has been discussed a number of times in our discourses, both in our lectures and both in our books. You'll find that the second arrival of Jesus, very briefly I can explain it, that is basically a dream that was shown to the prophet. And in that dream, it seems that Christianity is going to recover, so to speak, of the loss of Sharia in it, which of course one of the things that is mentioned in the dream is that he's going to break the cross, he's going to kill the swine, referring to the fact that the Sharia that was revoked is going to be once again restored. Breaking the cross, of course, would mean that the concept of Trinity would be restored once again to monotheism. So basically, it is a dream of the prophet in which it's not saying that Jesus is going to arrive. It's telling us that Christianity is going to go through a very huge reform. And that's like a news that was given to the prophet. And that is all. It's not about physical appearance of Jesus. But this is a very brief overview. Otherwise, you can look up how Ustaz has made his case, and he has presented those narratives which clearly say that it was a dream. For example, if you look at the Muwatta of Imam Malik, you'll see that it is a dream of the Prophet in which he saw Jesus and Dajjal encircling the Kaaba, and then of course the rest of the story connects very well. But for that, you might need to, as I said, look at some of the publications that have been recently published regarding Hadith literature, and you'll find the details there.
So then I have a question. Is there no clear sign of the Day of Judgment? We just had a session on that recently, Dr. Saleem. Should they be directed to that?
I think, as I said, that is something that, yes, of course, that can be referred to, but the only sure sign that has been mentioned in the Quran is the rise of Gog and Magog, which are the yellow races, the Chinese, the Mongols, of course, they are part of them. And the other nations that even dwell today in Australia and the US, they're all Gog and Magog. And Gog and Magog are the son of Japheth, the third son of Noah. And they are said to rise near the end of time. And that is the only sure sign which is mentioned in the Quran. The rest, of course, they are other signs which are mentioned. And if you can refer them to that lecture in which we discuss the 10 signs and some of the, if you see that the signs are two types. One of them relate to the proximity of the Day of Judgment, which means that something that will happen near the Day of Judgment. And then there are other types of signs which are like something that will happen immediately before the Day of Judgment. So one type of signs deals with the proximity, that the Day of Judgment is near at hand. So there is a separate category of signs that relate to the proximity of the Day of Judgment. And then there is another set of signs that relate to the fact that they are going to appear right before the Day of Judgment. So there's one that is a proximal attachment to the Day of Judgment, and the other is right before the arrival of the Day of Judgment.
Okay. Then I have another chat question, Dr. Saleem. Does Aqamat Salah implies praying in congregation?
No. Aqamat Salah means to be diligent in the prayer, to show your diligence, and that encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses being punctual. It encompasses offering the prayer on time. It encompasses offering the prayer with your heart into it, with your attention into it. Congregation is not implied. So the word aqama in the Arabic language means to adhere fully to some concept, to fully adhere, to become diligent and vigilant.
Right. Then Rashad Shafqat, please ask your question.
Dr. Saab, just wanted to ask that the Quran is referred to as the Kitab right from the beginning. In the initial stages, it wasn't in the form of a book. So why and how is it referred to as Kitab right from the word go?
So you see, the concept of a book, the way we know it today, means something that is in the form of a book, which means that it has to be between two covers. This is a modern interpretation of the word book. Ancient connotations mean that anything that is compiled, whether the repository or the medium of that compilation is in the memory, whether it is outside of the memory, whether it's in a, let's say, in a soft copy. So you see, today, soft copies, although they are not hard copies, we still call soft copies as book. So in ancient times, books that were not written down, but they were committed to memory, were also called books. So it's just a question of understanding that as times have changed, anything which is arranged in a sequence, not necessarily compiled in written form, was called a book. So that could have been something that has written down. It could have been something that was in our memories. And today, as I said, if we call a book that is in a soft format, we would immediately understand that yes, soft copy is also a form of a book. So you see, the connotation of the word changes. So it is not something that governs the meaning of the book. So it could be the repository is your brain, your mind. The repository could be a piece of paper. The repository could be a branch of a tree. The repository could be a computer disk. So that's something which is additional to it. The word book is means that something that is authored by some person and arranged in the form of a discourse.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have a quick chat question. Well, I don't know if it's quick, but it's a question. If I can recall, last time Dr. Saab mentioned one verse from the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy about a prophecy about the coming of a messenger. A Christian friend once mentioned that it was about the Jesus Christ, not about our Prophet Muhammad. Kindly clarify how that prophecy fits to Prophet Muhammad and not Jesus Christ.
I think we have done that a number of times. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter number 18. If you look through that chapter, and you can see the relevant lectures, you'll see the way that prophecy has mentioned that I will raise a prophet from among your brethren, which means that the prophet will be from the cousins. So Jesus was a direct descendant of Moses. So he was the last Israelite prophet. So he could not have been meant, because the words are that I am going to raise a prophet from among your brethren. So someone that is your descendant cannot be a brother. Only a parallel branch, that was the branch of the Ishmaelites, could have been referred to here. And the only prophet to come amongst the Ishmaelites after Prophet Ishmael was Prophet Muhammad. So, it is so clear that you just cannot distort the word cousin to make it mean someone who's your descendant.
Okay, now Shehzad Saab, I see that you have your hand raised. Was that the last question? Because otherwise I'll end the session. We are at...
Just a small question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, just before namaz in congregation, the aqamat is said, kat qamat salat, kat qamat salah.
Correct.
Do we need to say that when praying individually?
No, we don't. This is just for congregation.
Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Saab, I have one more raised hand. Can I ask the question for them?
Yes, please go ahead.
Ijaz Hussain Saab, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Since Basant is coming in Lahore, the ban is lifted after, I think, 20 years. So some say it is a Hindu ritual which was observed historically by Muslims in Lahore. But anyway, what are the moral guidelines regarding, Basant to be observed?
I think this is again something that is very commonly known, that any festivity, any function that does not involve any immorality, that does not involve any extravagance or show off, anything that is done in certain limits, if it does not involve all these things, cannot be objected to. So the fact is that if it is not extravagant, if it is not a waste of money, if it's not something that causes injury or harm to people potentially, you cannot object to it. So that is a principle that we can apply to any festivity. Anything that becomes a life-threatening situation, or anything that becomes a source of extravagance, anything that becomes a thing that may cause harm to people, should be abstained from.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Inshallah, we'll reconvene next weekend for our regular sessions. And for the office, I'll be ending the session now.